Well, it was a very powerful moment. We didn't, at least as players, we didn't know that that was going to happen. So I think it was kind of like a genuine surprise.
What happens when the league's golden girl gets publicly jabbed in a press conference? Not by a rival team, but by a teammate turned provocateur. And more importantly, what happens when the silent superstar finally breaks that silence? Not with a shout, but with a single strategic strike that dismantles her critics? Buckle up, because what started as a simple t-shirt protest has exploded into one of the pettiest, most jaw-dropping feuds in WNBA history.
But the t-shirt, just united front, was determined this morning that we had a meeting for. And, not to...
We had a very awe moment that really needed to be mentioned, and no, we're not trying to lighten the situation. The WNBA All-Star press conference was supposed to be one of unity, pride, and progress, but when Kelsey Plum grabbed the mic, she lit a match under a gasoline-soaked powder keg. One throwaway line, one so-called joke, and everything exploded. Not just a moment of shade, but a full eclipse of the Caitlin Clark sun. Or at least that's what Kelsey thought.
Not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just, we had a very, that really needed to...
Kelsey Plum didn't just open her mouth, she swung it open like a wrecking ball. And the first structure to collapse? The facade of team unity. With a careless mix of sarcasm and smugness, Plum dragged Clark and her entire team into a controversy that they didn't even sign up for. Cameras rolling, microphones live, social media engines revving, and Plum decided that this was the right time to tattletale about who wasn't at a shirt planning meeting.
To be mentioned.
I'm trying to make a situation light, okay? But yeah, no, I think it was just all of us getting on the same page for the game. We wanted to do something that was just...
The moment she said 0 members of Team Clark showed up, the room didn't just fall silent, it shuddered. Sabrina Ionescu's eyebrows shot halfway to the rafters. The crowd blinked, commentators inhaled, Twitter exploded, even those who barely watched the WNBA perked up. Because that wasn't just drama, that was televised sabotage. A shot fired straight into the atmosphere, aimed at Caitlin's image. Mind you, Clark wasn't even at the game. She was recovering from a groin injury, laying low, away from the headlines. And yet, she became the very center of attention. The villain in a plot she didn't even audition for. And let's be real, the shirts weren't the issue. The issue was that Kelsey Plum turned a message of solidarity into a messy smear campaign in high definition. She weaponized unity to score petty points.
The t-shirt, just united front, was determined this morning that we had a meeting for. And, not to...
Now the shirts themselves, they read, "Pay us what you owe us." A bold, clear, even noble message. But what should have been a league-wide show of force for equal pay morphed into a targeted roast of Caitlin Clark's camp. Because instead of focusing on the injustice, Plum rerouted the energy to point fingers. Suddenly, it was less about equity and more about exclusion. Kelsey Plum tried to come off as funny, as light-hearted. "Not to tattletale," she said, like some schoolyard gossip exposing who didn't show up to recess. But this wasn't recess. This was national television. This was a player with influence and spotlight deciding to flex at the expense of the league's most bankable star. And no matter how much she grinned through it, the damage was done. The result? A media wildfire. Fans split into 2 camps. Some saw it as a justified critique, but most saw it for what it was, a jealousy-laced swipe that exposed more about Kelsey than Caitlin. Because when your joke results in headlines, outrage, and public shade, maybe the joke wasn't a joke at all. Maybe it was a deliberate attempt to stir the pot while pretending to hold a spoon.
To tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just, we had a very...
That really needed to be mentioned.
And let's not ignore Sabrina Ionescu, sitting right next to Plum during this PR disaster. Her reactions were priceless, her face contorted in real time as Plum's words hung in the air like smoke. It was the look of someone who knew that they were witnessing a career-altering moment, and not for the better. That sideways glance, that deep sigh, that was Sabrina screaming with her eyebrows, "Girl, Why would you say that? That's when fans started noticing the cracks, not just between players, but in the league itself. Because when the supposed icons of unity can't even get on the same page for a t-shirt, what are we really doing here? Clark and her teammates were suddenly positioned as villains. Unwilling, uninformed, uninvited villains. All because nobody thought to include them in the planning session, and then everyone blamed them for missing it. And the best part? Clark didn't even flinch. While social media unraveled, while press outlets scrambled for angles, while Plum tried to walk back her joke, Caitlin Clark sat back and waited because she knew. She knew that all she had to do was wait for the perfect moment to make it hurt. And oh, did she make it hurt.
Here are the rules for tonight's WNBA Star 3-point contest.
It happened under a seemingly harmless Instagram post. Plum uploaded a photo from the game, probably expecting praise, maybe even applause. But instead, Caitlin dropped a single comment. 6 words. Thank you for the Nike ad. That's it. No insults, no hashtags, no drama, just precision. And just like that, the internet went nuclear. Here's why that hit so hard. Clark is repped by Nike. So, when Plum posted a photo that featured Caitlin in full Nike gear, she accidentally handed over free ad space to her competitor. And Clark? She didn't even have to say, gotcha. She let the caption do the bleeding. That wasn't a clapback. That was a branding masterclass, disguised as a casual dunk. It's moves like that which separate stars from superstars. Caitlin Clark didn't just play the game, she rewrote the rules. She didn't scream, cry, or rant. She tapped the keys. And just like that, she reminded everyone who really holds the WNBA by its financial throat. It's not just that she's popular, it's that she's profitable. There's a difference.
But the two-time defending champs, looking very much like it as Kelsey Plum held out her hand for Clark to shake, and Clark...
You can love her or hate her, but you can't ignore the numbers. When Clark announced she wouldn't play due to injury, ticket prices plummeted by half. That's not an exaggeration. That's a cold, harsh economic reality. One player out and the entire market shifts. You think Kelsey Plum can do that? You think Sabrina or Stewie or anyone else can move those numbers solo? Let's be real here. The WNBA isn't just lucky to have Caitlin Clark, it's dependent on her. And that's the part that's got some of these players seething. They don't hate her for what she said. She hasn't said much. They hate her for what she represents. Relevance, exposure, dollars, sponsorships, endorsements, everything the league has been begging for, she's delivering. But instead of embracing that success, they treat her like an outsider, like she's infiltrated their club. And maybe that's the real issue. Because for years, the WNBA has been a tight-knit circle. The culture is strong, the politics even stronger. And when someone new comes in, especially someone who outshines the veterans, it disrupts the balance. Caitlin Clark didn't just disrupt, she detonated. And now they're scrambling. They wear shirts demanding pay raises, but then isolate the one person bringing in the cash. They say she doesn't belong, yet the league's survival hinges on her presence. It's a bizarre paradox. They want the success, but not the source of it. They want the benefits, but not the baggage. But you can't have it both ways. Kelsey Plum exposed more than just her opinion in that press conference. She exposed the silent resentment bubbling under the surface, the tension between old guard and new wave, between earned fame and inherited fame, between those who grind and those who glow. And guess what? It's not Caitlin's fault that she's glowing brighter. The reality is this: without Clark, the WNBA loses its shine. Period. It's not just about jersey sales, though those are through the roof. It's not just about TV ratings, though those spike every time she touches the ball. It's about presence, impact, cultural relevance, the thing the league has struggled to secure for decades.
Oh my God.
now that they've got it, what do? They let petty jealousy tarnish it. They let public jabs overshadow progress. Instead of building around her, they're burning bridges. And fans see it. Viewers feel it. The audience isn't stupid. They can spot bitterness a mile away. Clark didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to organize a counter press conference. She didn't need to write a Twitter thread. She just dropped 6 words and walked off. That's the difference. That's the quiet confidence of someone who knows her worth. Someone who doesn't need to prove it in interviews. Someone who lets results speak louder than rants. So while Plum scrambles for PR cover, while her fans twist themselves into knots defending her joke, Caitlin Clark is already on to the next deal, the next endorsement, the next milestone, because that's what winners do. They don't wrestle in the mud, they build castles out of it.
That was a very powerful moment. We didn't, at least as players, we didn't know that that was going to happen. So I think it was kind of like a genuine surprise.
And the league? It has a choice to make. Embrace the player who's changing the game, or keep dragging her down with side comments and passive-aggressive shade. But let's be clear, the clock is ticking. Fans won't stick around for pettiness. They want greatness. And greatness is wearing number 22. Caitlin Clark's single Instagram jab didn't just leave Kelsey Plum reeling. It sparked a ripple effect through the entire sports world. Overnight, pundits debated whether professional athletes should wield social media like sabers or shield themselves from public feuds. Some industry insiders warned that this kind of passive aggression could backfire on the league's image, turning fans away from genuine causes. Others argued that it was a much-needed reminder that athletes are brand managers as much as they are point guards. Meanwhile, agents saw a new revenue stream: crisis consulting. Everyone from PR firms to sports psychologists suddenly had a seat at the table. Across locker rooms nationwide, players whispered about the fallout. Veteran stars who once sat in harmony began choosing sides: solidarity with Plum's grounded roots or allegiance to Clark's commercial prowess. Training facilities felt different. Tension replaced the usual banter. Practices grew quiet when Nike or Under Armour gear came into view. Coaches had to calm heated debates over endorsement allegiances before they even began the drills. It was the first time many realized that sponsorships carried more weight than rebounds or assists.
But the t-shirt, just united front, was determined this morning, that we had a meeting for. And, not to...
Social media wasn't just a battleground. It became an arena for guerrilla marketing. Fans started selling Team CC and Team Plum merch on Etsy, turning a locker room spat into a cottage industry. Comment sections overflowed with gifs of mic drops and slow-moment dunks. TikTokers remixed sound bites from the press conference into memes with millions of views. Creators exploited every angle, from animated cartoons of a shirt-planning meeting gone wrong to mockumentaries about secretly recorded private sessions. Even late-night hosts jumped in, using the story to poke fun at corporate sports culture. At the league office, executives convened under fluorescent lights to debate damage control. One group proposed organizing a unity game where Clark and Plum would team up to settle differences on court. Another pitched charity events highlighting the original cause, pay equality. Yet a third suggested shelving protests until after the season to avoid brand confusion. While they argued, internal memos leaked to the press, revealing a league more concerned with optics than progress. The public went ballistic. Did the WNBA care about players, or just its bottom line?
Not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just, we had a very...
That really needed to be...
Meanwhile, Kelsey Plum enlisted her own squad of PR experts, determined to salvage her reputation. They drafted heartfelt Instagram videos showcasing her community outreach, youth camps, and passion for the sport. They highlighted her friendship with Mary Jackson and her charity work for underprivileged kids. They even staged a cameo appearance on a local news cooking segment. Anything to humanize her beyond the Shade Queen persona. Yet every clip carried subtitles reminding viewers of Clark's 6-word response. The narrative persisted. Plum tried to stir the pot, but Clark served the dish. On the flip side, Clark's team celebrated her minimalist strike. They quantified every like, share, and tweet that boosted her brand value. They whispered about upcoming deals with Nike, Apple, and ESPN, positioning her as the next global face of women's basketball. They forecast multi-year contracts that dwarfed existing WNBA salaries. They discussed podcasts, book deals, and international tours, all off the back of a single It was a masterclass in underplaying expectations and over-delivering results.
You mentioned.
I'm trying to make a situation light, okay? But yeah, no, I think it was just all of us getting on the same page for the game. We wanted to do something that was just...
At grassroots gyms in small towns, young girls noticed the divide and drew lines. Some wore Plum's jerseys with 12 stitched above their hearts. Others donned Clark's 22 like a badge of honor. Conversations shifted from "Who's your favorite player?" to "Whose team are you on?" Parents chimed in on forums, debating which star embodied the ideals of teamwork and which represented individual supremacy. Coaches used the feud as a teaching moment about professionalism and respect. Youth leagues held mock press conferences where the kids practiced diffusing drama. An ironic twist on the adult world spilling into junior basketball. Commentators weighed in with solemn faces, dissecting every glint of animosity caught on camera. They broke down Plum's body language, tracing her shift from smug grin to sheepish shrug. They analyzed Clark's troll-style comment as a tactical play in a larger marketing game. They speculated about hidden alliances between agents and shoe companies. They even invoked historical rivalries in men's sports, comparing this to Ali Frazier or Bird Magic. Suddenly, ladies basketball carried the same mythic weight as heavyweight boxing or NBA Finals showdowns.
United and collective, and I thought that it was a very powerful moment and got the point across. And
sponsors felt the quake under their boardroom tables. Under Armour executives wondered if Plum's shot at Nike would alienate their core market. Nike brass smiled as Clark's stock soared, but fretted over being seen as capitalizing on internal WNBA strife. League partners, ranging from telecoms to beverage brands, pressed for stability, demanding assurances that protests wouldn't derail future events. Broadcast networks negotiated clauses in upcoming contracts to limit on-camera controversies. Where do you stand now? Are you ready for the next chapter in this epic WNBA saga? Drop your thoughts below, hit like, and subscribe to stay locked in on every twist, shout, and slam dunk in this historic rivalry.